Hi everybody and welcome to this week's SOS parenting video. Today I want to talk to you about how to cope with toddler tantrums and how exactly should we manage them in the moment when they happen. So I think first of all we have to start with the idea that toddler tantrums are really normal. If your toddler tantrums, it doesn't mean that they're being naughty, it doesn't mean that they're trying to deliberately manipulate you, it doesn't mean that you've failed as a parent or they're being naughty or any of those things we commonly say about tantrums. Tantrums are a normal part of child development, something all children go through, and you know, it's not naughty. We must get over that. The reason that they tantrum is simply that they don't have the brain development that we have. They don't have the abilities to regulate their emotions. They don't have the abilities to calm themselves down. They don't have the impulse control to stop the sort of big overwhelming feelings. So we must first start from the position that it's a toddler is not being naughty or manipulative when they tantrum. They simply can't help it. As much as we as parents and adults would rather that they didn't tantrum, they wish they didn't tantrum even more so. So what happens in the moment? So I talk about handling discipline and handling difficult behaviours in two ways. I talk about in the moment or short term, and I talk about the long-term discipline. So the long-term discipline is sort of looking for the underlying reasons and triggers and the greater learning, and you need to do both. But that's a whole other video. Today, what I want to focus on is the short-term or in-the-moment discipline. I guess it's a little bit like you imagine short-term discipline as firefighting, and the long-term discipline is the kind of fire prevention strategies. But today we're focusing on the emergencies, the firefighting. So your child's having a big tantrum. What do you do first? I talk about handling tantrums in the moment with the acronym SENSE, S-E-N-S-E. So I'm going to talk you through each letter in turn. The S stands for safety. So before you do anything else, the most important thing to do during a tantrum is to first make sure that your child is safe, make sure you are safe, any other children, any animals or any objects. So very often this means actually going to your toddler and holding on to them or picking them up and moving somewhere safe with them, because safety is the most important thing that we need to do. We need to get them away from the road. We need to stop them hitting their siblings or whatever by holding on to them or just gently moving them out of the way to somewhere safe. But very often when you do that, it makes them really, really angry. So be prepared for lots of tears or lots of anger, which is normal. You know, if you were having a big tantrum, somebody moved you, you'd be angry too. What we need to do then is, this happens in our own head. We need to take a big breath and calm ourselves down and remind ourselves, I am the adult. I am the one with the mature brain development. I need to be the adult. I need to calm down. Big breaths. And the E stands for empathize. So this is where you're just going to take a moment and empathize with how difficult life is for your toddler right now. They don't want to be having that tantrum either. Just empathize how awful it must feel to be so out of control. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to wait. We're going to sit close enough to them that they're happy. We're not going to try and cuddle them in the middle of a tantrum, because most would hate that. You know, if you're very, very angry and your partner tried to cuddle you, probably like, you know, don't want a hug right now. What we're also not going to do is start trying to talk to them, because in the moment of a tantrum, they're in the fight or flight response. They're full of cortisol with lots and lots of big feelings. They can't hear logic and reason. They need you to just be quiet and be calm and wait for them to calm down a little bit. When the cortisol starts to drop and they start to calm down a little bit, then I would offer a cuddle or to come and sit nearby you or just to listen to them. But then what we're going to do is we're going to name, that's the N in SENSE, name their feelings. I can see that you were really angry that your brother wouldn't share his toy with you. You were really frustrated that we have to leave the park. By naming their emotions, it helps them to feel validated, but also importantly, it helps to teach them emotional literacy. So next time that they're feeling difficult, they might learn to associate the word. In actual fact, it probably won't be next time or next year, but in a couple of years, you'll have taught them the names of emotions so they can come to you and say, Mum, Dad, I'm feeling really angry. Can you help me to calm down? What we're going to do then is the S stands for support, and we're going to support them in the best way. And that best way is individual for each and every child. So for some, it might be a hug. For some, it might be sitting and reading a story. For some, it might be just sitting quietly near them, just going for what we call time in, just quiet time with them. We don't want to exclude them because that doesn't help them to calm down. It just punishes them for having difficulties with struggling with a toddler's brain. And then the last thing we're going to do, when everything's calm and we're all supported and you yourself are calm and you're sort of, everybody's feeling a bit back to normal, a little bit better, is we're going to explain. That's the last letter, the E. We're going to explain why what they did was wrong and what they could do better next time. But remember, we're not going to be expecting any lasting change from this because we're firefighting. This is in the moment emergency discipline. What we need for a long-term change is that long-term discipline. But actually, when we're talking toddlers, we need brain development. We need months and weeks and years for them to just grow and just develop the tools they need to handle those emotions better and regulate their emotions. And sadly, that's not going to come for many months or years. So you're going to be doing a lot of firefighting and a lot of short-term discipline. But a lot of it is about resetting your expectations. And thank you for joining me. That's all for today. Bye.